Welcome into Everybody Loves Royals. My name is Brandon Johnson. Along with me is Moses Weiss, and we are a fan-made baseball podcast covering all things Kansas City Royals. And today is our first episode, and we thought it would be appropriate to cover kind of some of the recent history of the Royals and kind of get into what's happened throughout this current season now that the 2025 season is over. All right. So let's kick off the show, Moses, with some 2025 recap. That was a sentence. So I guess we have to talk about 2025. I feel like we need to talk about 2024, right?
Okay.
2024, the Royals kind of exceeded expectations. They had lost 106 games in 2023, pretty much turned the entire thing around in 24, won 86 games, got a wild card berth, won a wild card series, made it to the ALDS, and all was well.
The boys were playing some ball.
They were. So in between 2024, 2025, we have, rightfully so, high expectations. So give me, Moses, kind of what you were hoping would happen in 2025.
Well, I remember a text conversation we had that kind of birthed the 2025 season for me. It's kind of a core memory. And it was the same day I bought my FanDuel subscription. I bought into being a Royals fan again. 2024, I was following, of course, but I wasn't watching every day. 2025, I knew we're going to be good. I'm excited. And yeah, I recall the text conversation we had. You asked me how many wins we're going to have. I looked at 86 and I was thinking, we only got better, right? We're going to have at least 5 more wins. If we had 5 more wins, that's a 91 win team. That's winning the division in some good cases, in some divisions. Obviously, our division was a little tough. Guardians won 92 and 24, so it would have been right up there. It still would have been a wild card team. So my expectations were kind of wild card or bust. Like, I know that's a high expectation to have, but we did it once, and we clearly saw that we thought we were in a good direction. So, yeah, that's kind of where my expectation was to begin the season. I thought Royals fan favorite Jonathan India would have made a bigger difference. I thought that our pitching staff would have carried 2025. But, kind of the rest of that is history with injuries and not meeting expectations. So that's how it started.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. You see what they did in 2024, got a wild card berth, and then for me, I was like, well, let's kind of up the expectations a little bit. This is a team that should be competing for the division. There's no reason to think that they can't get better than they were in 2024. They were bringing back most of the same players, like the pitching staff outside of Brady Singer, who got traded to Cincinnati for Jonathan India. You're like, oh, Jonathan India, who was sold to us as like, he's going to be this leadoff batter. He's going to be great. He's going to get on base. He's going to help Bobby Witt Jr. and, yada, yada, yada. Obviously, none of that came to fruition.
Yeah, no missteps on defense either. You'd think that without someone like Michael Massey, India could fill those shoes really easily, you'd think.
Yeah, I think they should be winning a division. I didn't think that they did enough from an outfielder standpoint. They they brought in MJ Melendez, or kept MJ Melendez. I felt like they should have upgraded off of him. They brought back Hunter Renfroe, who had no business being on the Royals roster in 2025, based off of 24. I understand wanting MJ to be there because he's in your system and you want to give him an opportunity to have that success. Hunter Renfroe made no sense. But offense kind of fell flat just right out the gate, and those two players that I just mentioned were a large reason for that. Vinny Pasquantino had a really slow April. Salvador Perez had a kind of slow 3 months. and the team just kind of didn't get didn't come out of the gate the way that we had hoped that they would, where all of a sudden we're looking up at not only Cleveland but Detroit.
Yeah. How many games under 500 were we by the end of June? And just that playing from behind, teams already like in the Royals case being a potential wild card team, you want the best part of your season to be the end of the season. Obviously, you want to have the momentum carrying you into the postseason, but you know, playing from behind is never fun, especially from a fan perspective. I mean, I'm watching these Royals lose, and you think that we have something to look forward to, but then I go to a game and Chris Bubich gives up 6 runs in the first inning, comes out with a rotator cuff injury, out for season. So it's stuff like that that was just kind of stacking up. It seemed like.
Yeah, and you mentioned June. You could make the argument that June is a huge factor as to why the Royals missed the postseason, because they won one game in Kauffman Stadium all of June, which they won 82 games all season. So I mean, if they win 5 games,
Yeah, if they take 2
they are
series,
it is the difference between being a postseason team and not being a postseason team. And like you said with Chris Bubich, injuries were a huge factor in 2025 from a pitching perspective. Seth Lugo spent some time, and Cole Reagan's missed time. Obviously, Chris Bubich, who was kind of on a Cy Young path, got hurt, and we didn't see him the rest of the way. I think Lucas Erceg was down for a little bit. And honestly, you look at all of that happened with the pitching staff and how slow the offense started. It's kind of a miracle that they won 82 games anyway and were in contention until a week left.
that definitely gives me something to look forward to. It's always better to be able to look back and see things that you can fix and things that like obviously you hate to be the one to point the finger and say, "Oh, if it weren't for this." How many times did a team not make it to the playoffs and they said, "Oh, well, if this would have happened." Yeah, well, it didn't. So,
Yeah.
but at the same time,
yeah. This
so
didn't.
if Urseg were in there, that's maybe, I don't know, if it were 3 to 4 games different that Urseg would have actually been playing to his best and won. But you could say that for a whole number of games. If the Royals would have actually, cleared the bases on a hit once, whenever they had bases loaded, 1 out or something, and nothing ever happens. There's
just generated more runs in general. They were 26th in the league with runs scored, which obviously is not a recipe for success. Somehow the Guardians were worse. They were 28th in the league and managed to win the AL Central, which they have a phenomenal pitching staff, so that they kind of carried their way there. But I want to look at some of the positives though in 2025 as well. I think the biggest surprise for me was Michael Garcia, because 24, Michael kind of lost his spot, and you're like, all right, he's going to be your everyday third baseman now, and we're like, okay, sure. And he ended up being an all-star. He won a Gold Glove and being one of the highlights of the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
He finished with oh, you're good. He finished with batted 286, 351 on base percentage, and again, just an overall positive for the Royals. He had 170 hits, which was 14 behind Bobby Witt Jr. Bobby Witt Jr. led the league in hits, so really good season from Michael. And the hope with him is that he just gets better as he goes.
I would take what he did this year next year. Just keep being that Michael Garcia. If we can get that Michael Garcia every year, how many years in a row would it take to make him a household name? I mean, he's one of the most underappreciated players. I had a hot take earlier that he was maybe the best third baseman in baseball. Now, obviously, hot take, homer take, but bringing home the Gold Glove, that's a big step for him and for Bobby getting his second. But for Michael to have that, completely changing his swing, hey, credit Alex Zumwalt. Hey, that's one positive thing that happened.
Yeah.
That's one positive.
Yeah, it is. it's easy to dunk on Alex Zumwalt and co just based off of everything we've seen, but there are positives where you have Michael Garcia, you have Vinny Pasquantino, and Salvador Perez both had 30 plus home runs, 100 plus RBIs. Bobby Witt Jr. had a great year, a down year by his standards probably, but a great year nonetheless.
But then another part of that is how much of that is studs being studs. Like how much of that is awesome players being awesome players. And there's obviously can go both ways, but then you see other people that you think would excel struggle, like Caglione. He had the worst batting average in the whole team of all qualified batters. It's like 150. So that's definitely something that you know you can look at it as a positive from him. I'm
I think with Jack Caglione, I I think he had impossible standards in 2025 because he came up in June, and
Well, his standards were his AAA statistics. His
yeah, his double A and triple A stats were insane. And it was, let's get him up here, let's plug him into a struggling offense. Maybe he'll be the shock that they need. And just it never got to that point with him. He's ended up getting injured, spent some time doing rehab assignments, came back up. It was better when he came back up, but I feel like I know it's like, okay, he hit 150, 157 in 2025. Like he really only can go up, but I feel like he's going to have a significantly better 2026 season and will be plug him in with the names we mentioned and you have a scary lineup along with a hopefully healthy pitching staff.
yeah, and then get that lineup to start hitting with runners in scoring position. And hey, we got a contender on our hands, man.
And I think that's like I want to kind of talk about the Royals now, the era that we're in now, and compare it to like post championship Royals, post 2015 Royals up to like 2020 ish. And I look at this Royals team with JJ Piccolo calling the shots, John Sherman as the owner, and I am so optimistic about the future of the Royals. And I think that they are building something that is sustainable. That isn't just going to be a hey, we've got two solid years out of this team. Now we're gonna redo it. We're gonna rebuild. You have 24 mention make the playoffs. Expectations were to make the playoffs this year. Obviously didn't, but I'm not like, well, we tried. Let's try again in 8 years. Like that's
Right.
not where I'm at. I'm like, oh, they want to win. They're going to rebound. I feel they're going to rebound in 26 and have a better season.
Ooh,
And
90 wins, hot take.
hey, why not? I think that you have a general manager that is baseball first. I'm going to do what is best for the Royals, not what I think is best for this player. Um, and you have an owner that wants to win as well and has shown that he's willing to spend a little bit of money if he needs to make that happen with Bobby Witt Jr., extending Seth Lugo. We'll see. They have multiple players that are arbitration eligible. You have Vinny Pasquantino, Michael Garcia that are on that list.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get significant raises. I don't know if they'll necessarily get their arbitration bought out, but there's
Yeah, one of my hot takes is we need to extend those players. But obviously, you educated me on how arbitration works, so I see the advantage of holding off, but I also see where you don't want to hold off on that for too long. But that's the big fan of Garcia in me, and the past Squatch wanting to see that Sasquatch running around up and above the Hall of Fame every time I go to the game. So but yeah, I like what you said. I definitely I unfortunately Dayton Moore and that regime overstayed their welcome in Kansas City. everyone outgrows their role. Everyone at some point in life, that there's a time to move on, and I'm glad that um, I'm glad that we moved on. I'm glad that we're in the new era of the Royals. You know, with we got really really lucky with really really good players in 2015. It was, that was the story that Dayton Moore and that entire ownership and regime can look back on is 2015. 2014 was obviously great, but it's the same team in 2015 plus a couple extra bats and a couple better, starters probably. And then we watched that team slowly de-evolve over the years. And then 2019 is when the sale of the team happened. David Glass sold the team to John Sherman. Um, John Sherman, Kansas City guy, been around the league for a long time. He had different expectations. So 4 years later, after a few, observation years, he finally let go of Dayton Moore. Thank you for your service. See you later.
Yeah.
Brought in JJ Piccolo in 23. 23 was that real observation year. How many losses do we have in 23?
23 was 106 losses. Yeah.
So to go from 106 losses to 76 and 24, that's a 30 game swing. And I think that we now know what the culture is within the Royals. I mean, it's a completely different feel.
Yeah.
And I'm friends with lots of people that work at the Royals, and they would agree with you that the entire, even the going to work 9 to 5 is completely different. The feel of the entire team is different, and I think that the entire city can notice that, going from no one even talking about the Royals anymore, we all suck, laughing and never paying attention, to I bought into it. I paid my subscription. I went to as many games as I could all year, because the expectation is there now, and we have a team. For a small market, I think that we're kind of where you want to be as a small market. I was punching in some numbers during the World Series. Dodgers are at like 330 million. Mets are at like 320 million payroll, and then the Royals are down at like 125 or 135 or something like that.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, you mentioned JJ Piccolo, and I'll be honest with you about JJ Piccolo, because he worked under Dayton Moore the entire time Dayton was here, and they promoted him, and I was kind of like,
I had the same exact thing. I was
are
like,
we sure we want to do that? Because like for me, like obviously grateful for everything Dayton Moore did, built a championship team and actually got it done. That's something that small market teams just don't do, is actually win the championship. But it was everything after, where in 2017, it's like, hey, are we going to trade the core, or what are we doing here? No, we're just going to let them walk off and maybe get some compensatory picks for them. You're paying you're holding on to Whit Merrifield too long, who probably should have been traded way sooner than he actually was.
love that guy.
You give Hunter Dozier a lot of money for a good season because he's a good guy, and the Royals ended up cutting him because he was an overall negative on.
Hey, I would argue a good guy wouldn't make 30,000 people in the city cry every single day.
Yeah. But yeah, now it's all right. JJ Piccolo's proven that he's a different guy than Dayton Moore. He's a baseball first guy, as I mentioned. He's made the right moves, traded Aroldis Chapman, managed to get Cole Reagans back in that, moved on Brady Singer at probably the right time. I still think that India can be better. I think the problem with Jonathan India last season was they traded him to be this leadoff batter because we traded a big piece to get a big piece, and they held on to that too long and probably moved off of him being the leadoff guy way later than they should have, because when they dropped him down on the bottom of third of the order, he was significantly better.
And I agree with that.
Now it's all right, what are we going to do in 2026 to be better? John Sherman was talking about the payroll, and in 2025, according to MLB.com, roughly 138 million was their payroll, which put them between 16th and 19th out of 30 in that avenue.
I'd like to see him spend a little more. In that same article, he mentions that John Sherman thinks that what they have already is plenty. The money they're spending is plenty, at least. Um, you know, as a small market team, you'd hope that there'd be a little bit more of a bigger swing. The trade of Singer for India, that was a pretty big swing, and I liked it at the time. And I still think that there is a place for Jonathan India. He's got another year to prove it. Um, put him anywhere. You can plug him anywhere. If he can just step it up a little bit, it'll be worth it. And I think that you and I talked about it during the season a few times, where I really did appreciate not only JJ's mentality towards switching things up, but also um, Matt Quatrero's
We'll never know.
Coach Q, Coach Q. Um, I really appreciated Matt Quatrero's mentality and JJ Piccolo's mentality. Trying different things. You know, something's not working, try something else. If a player's not doing well at this part in the lineup, you know, move him to eighth in the lineup. You know, throw him somewhere. You know, call people up, send people down. They were trying different things. They got rid of Hunter Renfroe. What was that? The first 50 days of the season, they got rid of Hunter Renfroe.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you want to see in a team that is serious about winning. And obviously, there was some growing pains, and there probably will be, but I mean, you have to appreciate them at least trying. I mean, how many times have we sat here watching previous regimes not try the same way that you wish that they are now?
Mm-hmm.
So just bless up for us being in this new era, because I think I probably texted you a dozen separate times. Like, I at least appreciate Quatrero trying something. Even if it's in game, I appreciate him doing something. And then Piccolo during the season, I appreciate that he did something. He called somebody up. He made a move. Like, he's doing something. Sometimes it's not as big of a swing as you hope as a fan. You wish that they would just trade for Julio Rodriguez. Oh, but wait, it's the wrong Julio Rodriguez. So,
yeah. I think like for so long, I look around the league at other small market teams. Look at the Brewers, look at the Guardians, look at the Rays, and I see the success that they have, and I'm like, I don't understand why the Royals can't do that. And the Royals are finally there, where I'm like, they can be perennial contenders within the limitations that they have. Because I know that like a lot of people are like, oh, your owner just needs to spend more. Okay, like we need to stop pretending that the Royals have the same resources that the Dodgers do.
yeah,
They don't. So
we're
like,
not Los Angeles.
yeah, I look at what John Sherman said, and the Royals payroll is plenty, and we're going to work with what we have. That tells me, okay, they're not going to be big spenders in the offseason. Like they're not going to go. They're not going to be in the. I'm looking at outfielders because that's a need that I think the Royals need to fill. Kyle Tucker is a free agent. They're not going to be in the sweepstakes for Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker's 29, had a 9 WAR. Cody Bellinger.
I would love that.
Yeah, Cody Bellinger probably not, but I think they liked Mike Yastrzemski in the 50 games that he played for Kansas City, and I think that they could get him back on a short-term deal, put him in the outfield, and help. Maybe it's a platoon situation, but get somebody in there that is going to be better. Again, with Kyle Isbell, who we saw, who's one of the best defensive center fielders, but kind of saw some sparks of life from an offensive perspective.
He's a great role player on offense. He had tons of sacrifice hits, always well placed. You know, he plays his role well. It's just whenever he has the green light to swing and drive in some runs, you know, you'd like to see a little bit more. So his batting average, 255. That's decent. And if you could have numbers like that from each outfield spot, then you know you're in business. But whenever Hunter Renfroe's hitting 130, you know, Caglione out there and Wright's hitting 150, these are just not recipes for success. But I'm honestly really, really encouraged by how it went, and I think it's only up from here, honestly.
Just kind of on the free agent subject. So we know Royals have at least 2 players that have opted for free agency. Randall Grichuk and Michael Lorenzen, two players that like kind of thank you for your service, but we're not like, no, come
From
back.
this Royals fans' perspective, Lorenzen will be more missed than Grichuk, which is crazy because I wasn't even a huge fan of Lorenzen. I mean, I don't know how many. He was kind of one of those like quality start guys. You can kind of look forward to them giving you, maybe 6 innings,
Mm-hmm.
usually 3 to 4 runs, and players like that, their value is less whenever you don't have a ton of run support. But
Yeah.
um, but Grichuk, yeah, can we just touch on that? How crazy is it that Randall Grichuk was a Kansas City Royal?
Yeah.
He had no business putting on the blue, dude. What are we
Yeah.
doing?
43 games with the Royals at a slash line of 206, 266, and 299, which are all terrible.
Yeah, no
It was
thanks.
just kind of one of those like, okay, if you would have given me Grichuk 6 years ago, sure. But
Yeah.
and the thing about it is when the Royals traded for Grichuk, he was an upgrade from what they had, which is like
I know.
that
Hey,
tells you how
that's
bad the offense or the outfield was.
tells you how bad the outfield was, but it also tells you how like Cole is doing something. To touch on my previous point, like at least they're doing something. Um, so yeah, I'd love to see them bring in at least one outfield bat, maybe one more bench player that's kind of a step up from, a Tyler Tolbert type. You don't whenever you need to bring in a bat late, Tyler Tolbert's probably not the guy you're looking forward to hitting that walk-off home run. I mean, if he's pinch running, that's great, but again, lots of the players we have, it seems that they're a good role player, they serve their purpose, but we need another baseball player. We need another guy that is, you know, a Garcia type, someone that can swing the bat, someone that can bring home a gold glove, even if, that's really, really being optimistic. But, you know,
Yeah.
either of those corner outfield spots, that's probably one of the higher up on the list of needs for Royals this offseason.
Yeah. And it's so funny. I'm looking at the free agent class as a whole, and I'm like kind of like it's not that enticing of a free agent class. You have like Alex Bregman, uh, Kyle Tucker, Cody Bellinger, I guess, but Glaber Torres, Pete Alonso is big. JT Realmuto, he's getting old, but I'm like, it's not even like, hey, there's a flood of really high end free agents that the Royals need to try to get into. It's like, okay, there's Kyle Tucker, who you're probably not going to be in that conversation. And then it's like everybody else.
Adam Frazier. We talk about Adam Frazier.
Yeah.
It's the flow. He's like Samson. Give him a good head of hair, and he's going to be hitting 280 for your team. He's going to be hitting, eighth inning doubles to drive in Tolbert from first.
Tyler Colbert, Royals legend. All right. Well, let's get out of here.
All right, everybody. Well, that's going to be a wrap for the first episode of Everybody Loves Royals. Thank you so much for bearing with us for however long that went. I had a great time. There's a lot more where this came from. So if you liked it, leave a comment. If you freaking hated it, leave 2 comments. Tell someone you know. If you know someone that likes Royals, send it to them. Yeah, Brandon, you got anything to say?
I got nothing.
Peace, everybody. Peace.